Hey everybody, I just wanted to show you what I use for campaign style events where I have everything mobile in a wireless truck. And there are a couple disclaimers before I get going. First of all, some of this stuff is going to be wrong. You're going to look at it and say, well, that's not the right thing for what you're wanting to use for. I'm still learning a lot of this as I go, and the main thing was to get it all working together, and so that we could actually communicate on the field. And then as I learn more and get proper equipment, either can afford it or can find it, then I will upgrade as time goes by. Secondly, the truck. So it's a captured British truck. It's a Canadian CMP 1940. And so these were there in theater in North Africa and were used heavily by the Germans. Mark Felton did a special episode on Rommel's Kampfstaffel, which was comprised primarily of British vehicles, captured British vehicles, including his armored section. But in that video, he states that Rommel's radio truck was a captured British radio truck. Now, this one is not a radio truck per se. It doesn't have the box, but they did use 800 weight trucks as wireless units. So it's not out of the realm of possibility or plausibility that the Germans could have possibly used a truck like this. So we'll start with the antenna. It's a British 20-foot mast. And I've got it, I don't know if you can see there, but made a base for it that mounts onto the side of the truck out of a spike. And you can get some pretty good height on it, especially when it's mounted to the side of the truck. I wouldn't want to drive with it extended, obviously, but it comes down to right about there when you take it down. And the antenna that's up on the top is a, let's see, I've got my notes. The antenna is a Bingfu 136 to 520 megahertz whip antenna. And those are you can get those on Amazon really cheap. It has an SMA female adapter, or that's what the jack is on a SMA female. So what I did is I got an SMA male to N female adapter right there, because then I went to my RG213 coax is both N male connectors at the ends. So 25 feet of RG213. So that's what's going up there and coming down and going inside the truck. Once we're inside, the antenna lead goes down in there. It's all under here. There's the power supply, just a motorcycle battery. That's powering the FU5 radio. And here's where I coil it up when it's not in use. So, excuse me. So here's where it comes to a splitter. And there are two different options. One of them is a diplexer, and the other is a duplexer. The diplexer takes that Bingfu antenna, because the range on that antenna is 136 megahertz to 520, and so this diplexer, it's called an MFJ 916BN. It says it's a duplexer. It's actually a diplexer, and it splits that signal. On here is the 2 meter band, 1.3 to 225 megahertz, and on this side is the GMRS bands, which is like 462 or 467. FRS is included in that too. 350 to 540 megahertz. So that way I can split out of there, I split to the two different radios, and I can set this one up either as going to a GMRS or a Baofeng UV5R, which is 2 meter set. Just as a note, on the side, you can transmit on GMRS channels on a UV5R, but the FCC doesn't want you to do that. It's against their regulations. So the good thing is that when I wired this up, the UV5Rs and the UV5Gs, which is a GMRS version, use the same jack. So all I did was, to try and be minimally invasive onto the radio, I just disconnected the jacks and hooked up the wire going to the UV5R or G, and it uses the same plug, so that's convenient. And then drilled a tiny hole in the back that it passes through the case of the radio and goes back to this box where I've got the connector. There's the jack, and I can put in either unit back there. So that's what that's for. If I'm using a 2 meter set, a UV5R on 2 meter range here, and this the FU5 radio is made by Benny Volkspanzer, and it's set up as a GMRS. So that's why I would need the diplexer to go, so I could have two different bands, one range assigned to each radio. The duplexer is if this is all 400 to 500, so this is all going to be GMRS FRS range, no 2 meter. So if I was going to use a GMRS on this one instead of the 2 meter set, then I would probably use this. That way both sets are getting the proper antenna wavelength going to the radio set. So that's how that works. I got my table for notes. With the radio, I could not, for some reason or other, I could not get the German microphones to work on this, but I could get an American T17 Lollipop to work, and so that's what I'm using in there for now until I can get that sorted. The mount is total repro, totally phony, made it at home thing. Did the best I could with what I had available until I can get a proper, correct one, find one, and afford it. Also, I need that there's a little mount that goes up here that the antenna is supposed to pass through, and I don't have that. The headphones and German microphones are made by Wehrmacht Restore, and the speaker, I have two of those made by Benny Volkspanzer. Yeah, I also picked up one of Wehrmacht Restore's microphone and headphone storage boxes, which are very handy, as well as the flare pistol box. Now my story with this as to why I would have access to those things, as well as this radio, is that since these radios were used in Panzer IIIs in the desert, my story is that I salvaged this from a wrecked Panzer III and took out any other little goodies in there that I might be able to use. So these boxes probably would have come out of the tank. Now, whether they did that or not, I have no proof. I can't say, but if somebody says it never happened, I would have to really question that. So anyway, and then lastly, if I was going to set up a ground station like I have done before, I would set up my tent, and I've got this British kit with all the ground spike, guy wires, guy ropes, all that stuff, and then run everything into the tent. And just, I would undo this here at the shock mounts and just put that on 2 pieces of wood. I've got 2 down there. Set it on a table, and that way you've got your radio inside a tent instead. So anyway, with this height of antenna, you can get some pretty good range. With radio stuff, I am told that height equals might. So even if you don't have a powerful radio, like these little handheld units, that a lot of us are using, it doesn't matter so much about the power. It matters more about your antenna. And for example, on this very excellent FUB replica that Brad Blondette made, the only alteration I did to it was I took out the antenna base that was there and mounted a modern base for that same antenna that I'm using up on top of the truck, the Bingfu 3-foot whip antenna. So when the GMRS or the Baofeng is inside of here, you're actually getting an external antenna input, and that helps with range quite a bit. The other good thing about doing things with the modern stuff, instead of actually trying to use period radios and get them working, this one's a period radio, but it's not working in that capacity, is that none of these 3 radios would actually have talked to each other. The FUD2 is 33.8 to 38 megahertz, whereas the FU5 is 27 to 33. So it would just be underneath that. And then the FUB is 90.57 to 109.45 megahertz. So none of these 3 radios, as I understand it, would even be able to talk to each other. This way we can use them and, out in the field, and that's one of those things where it's like, if we were going to be absolutely 100% correct, then we wouldn't use them, for anything like what I'm using them for. But for me, I'm okay with this. Most people don't know, and most people don't really care. The fact that they work and we have communications on the field, I think they're willing to overlook that. So, but a purist, if someone was a collector of these radios and restored them, then they would probably have heartburn. I can't remember if I mentioned, Benny Volkspanzer for the FU5 and speaker, Wehrmacht Restore for microphones, boxes, and the shock mount and mount for the FU5 was made by, I want to say it's JV Trucking, and he's in Europe. I can't remember if it was in the Czech Republic or Belgium, and I apologize. I should have written that down before I came out here. But if somebody needs his link, just send me ask me and I'll post it. Anyway, but excellent work from all these people, getting stuff easy to work with and getting us set up so we can have communications in the field. Anyway, I hope this helps, or at least was mildly amusing. And best of luck to you with your setups in the field, and let us know how it goes.